We're tearing down the barriers. We're tearing down the barriers. We're tearing down the barriers. Erase the writing from the walls. Erase the writing from the walls. Erase the writing from the walls.
I do believe at this point we do have the right to protest. It's been long and it's been time enough. We're tired of being tired. I don't support looting and burning and that kind of stuff. That's not the kind of protest I'm talking about. I'm talking about human rights and justice. And if we can have that in check, then we're good. The system of institutionalized oppression is on, and we have to respond to that because they are responding to us. So my name is Yrneh Gabon, and I'm presently in quarantine in where I live in West Adams. My studio is at 18th Street Art Center at the 18th Street complex in Santa Monica. This is some of my work that I have brought in to either work on, I have just brought in to use as a way to kind of keep me active and inspired. The piece that you're looking at the moment is one of the first pieces I did called Mother and Child, or Mother and Son. And you can tell by just the lines, it's very figurative and expressive in the fact that my form was not developed yet, but there was a need to tell a story. So that came out of it, versus many years later going to USC and developing up a need for telling story in the social realm, looking at the killings of people with albinism from the exhibition Visibly Invisible. The piece that I'm standing very close to is called Dark Shame, and it was about women who were giving birth to children with albinism, felt the shame of just living with it and just having these kids because of what was happening in the community, which really spawned and allowed me to do a lot more research globally and see how people with albinism were living and responding to born with it. So you're looking at many images of people inside her skirt who I've interviewed globally, which had the bill that was passed June 13, International Albinism Day. So all of these pieces right here with the pink and the salt related to my body of work on salt production, the politics of salt, from Dakar to San Francisco. This is work that were made that I would have shown in exhibition when I returned from the Biennale, which would have been now in Dakar. So the Biennale should have been happening now, but because of COVID, we're not having a Biennale. It's all postponed. But these are works that I made that after the Biennale, on returning to the United States, I would have been showing. So this one is, I'm still working on the dragonfly, which is a part of my motif that speaks to climate change and navigating politics. This one is a piece, one of the first pieces I made in the exhibition that I wanted to do when I come back, titled Behold the Sun. And this piece right here is one of the pieces that really started the exhibition of having the woman carrying the salt on her head. So this one is entitled for now, but it's used as part of the actual painting. So the woman carries like 52 pounds of salt on her head, and it's actual salt on the piece and the bucket, of course. The woman is seen as the person who is she carries the history, she carries life, she carries so much things. As you can notice, there's a lot of female figures in my work, because I really truly believe that they are the cornerpost of a lot of how we function and keep us together. So yeah, it's homage to women who work much like these. This is one of the smaller pieces that looks at the same salt, but this is salt in the United States. So as you're looking, it's a deconstruction of the salt flats. So they're all pieces that relates to the salt flat as it relates to climate change, looking at the ecology and looking at the social issues around the people that live in the East Bay of San Francisco. The work has actually salted on it. The salt is fixed, so it's not going to move and it's not going to grow because of moisture. But I really wanted to capture the the lake, the flats as they look, and then deconstruct those flats to make masks, which is a part of a season that I consider to be the season series. So it's 4 seasons, which is how it really is. It takes like about 2 years to cultivate the salt, but it has seasons in which you have to do certain things to get the salt. So these are part of that exhibition that I hope to do very soon. These are part of the same season series for the salt work. So it's the same masking and deconstructing, constructing masks to tell stories about salt. I will be working on these at home here in lockdown, and hopefully when we come back, I will have the show and you come and see the show, and you will get one of these pieces for your collection. This is one of the pieces that is part of that whole Fire and Salt series that look at climate change. Ecologically, we're looking at the fires, much like the one in Malibu. And these forks are from the home of Lorraine Toussaint, who also lost her house in Malibu. And I have taken them to make work because I like to connect the actual ephemeral to the actual story. In this case, the fork is going to be salted. The dead bird is a rock pigeon, and it has a diamond in the eye. The shards of glass is about the breaking up of what one has in terms of their future, in terms of life and how that works. So it's like bringing all those shards together to make resurrect something more beautiful than what was there before, or something with another meaning. So it's bringing another meaning to the work. When I went visual, I wanted to look at things that was happening within the America, because this is where I lived now once I've moved away. And I read a book called Without Sanctuary that looked at lynchings, and then I started looking at race riots and came across the Red Summer and made this piece in response to soldier coming home from war and servicemen coming home from war and not having a place in the American society. And that started the riots, the racial riots all over America. So this was done like 2014 or 15, it's quite a few years back. And it's just me looking at migration and looking at people standing in solidarity and protest, and poppy fields and troubled skies, and an angry figure over there that's pretty much me responding to all this information. To kind of see now that we're in that same place, it's quite interesting because I've always felt like it's very important to re-educate, and if we don't know history, some of these things are bound to repeat, and a new generation has come about, and it's kind of what we're seeing right now of just racial issues needed a conversation, and the conversation has never been one that was inclusive. It was always divided. So to look at the Red Summer of 1919, I look at the 1925 Greensboro, Black Wall Street riots and stuff, it does help to kind of put into context or put into conversation what's going on in this culture, and that we need to have these conversations a lot more so we can be able to resolve or be able to understand culturally each other and be a lot more responsive and a lot more collaborative in terms of how we share. You can't have everything and that person has nothing. No resources in certain places, and certain places has all the resources. There's going to be a time when that is going to hit the boiling point, and I think that's some of what we're seeing right now. I was asked to do a piece of work that reflect the times, and if you notice, the hands is 6 o'clock, which was the curfew, what I found out later on. Inside, it was a purse and a whole pyramid, and the dragonflies in there, the box, the chain. It's all about power and superpower. The $100 bill is very much the representation of the America, and the one Chinese yen is of the Chinese. So these are the two forces right now that are really going neck and neck as it relates to power and money and politics. So this piece, Buying Time, number 69.
You treated me so bad, made my
These vessels are part of my climate change piece, where I would make soup and I would serve it to community and you would drink from them. So it's the one pot meal where you're not using a lot of unnecessary cutlery and utensils to eat. So it's very much homely like this, you know what I mean, which saves water and time and all that kind of stuff. So this is part of that body of, it's the same body of work on climate change. This is the part of the visible and invisible piece on the killings of people with albinism. And I use different mediums to tell a story. I consider these raku fired clay black tears, and the glass is pretty much like transparent like tears. And then the whole landscape inside the piece, I thought about what work I want to make when I was in Zanzibar in East Africa, and this is a piece titled Welcome to Zanzibar. So it's the whole idea of this box, and out of the box it's these tears, and then when you open it you have people in bronze that is encased, and you know how people go in much like how we're in lockdown right now. It's the same kind of concept where people are in hiding and just confined. This piece is about that, the black box. This piece is really about the institution of oppression. It involves the church, it involves university. It's how we are being baptized into these make-believe that is so far from us to suit the Western way of thinking and Westernization of capitalism. It applies to many things, but in this case I was looking at the mining of diamond and how, you know, Africa, where they're mining the diamonds, is so poor, but yet still all these plenums of diamond are leaving Africa every day. So the piece has a performative piece to it, and I wrote a poem called Bling Bling. Bling Bling means the shine. Yeah, so out of darkness the diamond shine. You turn your back pretending it's fine. Buried alive in the diamond mine. Human lives hanging on line. Time after time. Bling bling ching ching. Look who is cashing in. Bling bling ching ching. Look who is cashing in. Bling 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 ching 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 ching. Bling bling ching ching. Look who is cashing in. Your eyes are open but you're still sleeping. Your brain are clicking but you're not thinking. Never stop, never give in. It's a time and a season. Come. Let us reason. Bling bling ching ching. Look who is cashing in. Bling bling ching ching. Bling bling ching ching. Bling bling ching ching. Bling bling ching ching. Look who is cashing in. Your eyes are open but you're still sleeping. Your brain are clicking but you're not thinking. Bling bling ching ching. This is a piece that I call Haunted, and it was inspired by people who hunt people and those who are haunted by those people. So he is actually the hunter in this case, and she is haunted. This happens just about in so many ways and can be related to many other narratives that we're seeing where people are being haunted and hunted. So this piece came out of that. It's the bronze. Actually growing as we speak. The salt is growing on the work. This is fired. This is ceramic that is glaze fired, high fired, but yet still somewhat porous, and the salt is penetrating the ceramic. As you can see what it's doing to the metal dragonfly. This is the power of salt. This is the salt you eat. Sauté the salt. So this work is an active work. All of that is salt growing. The piece was placed into the high salinity solution, and that's where the solution of the salt was incredibly high. So it's water and table salt, and I sit it in it for a few hours. So the entire piece has the salt inside of it, so any moisture will have this growing taking place. So it's really a live performance piece that you're looking at. Before you know it, the salt is going to be all over there. As you probably can see, there's some areas where you can see it in. The only way to stop this is to spray fixative and kind of just close the moisture off so it stops growing. But right now, it's active. This is how it is. Nothing is applied here. The salt is actually growing. Like, this is a metal. See right here? Look at all this. This is salt penetrating metal, and this is the table salt you eat. Right? It's very important to watch your salt take. We need salt to survive, but not the salt that we're eating. All this stuff right here is salt growing. You see that stuff? Look at that. It's growing on there. It's alive. It's part of my experiment for my exhibition, where I show how the salt just really, look at that. This is ceramics, and this is salt. It's growing. Another piece. This is the same table salt. So much like this piece over here, it's called I Look to You. It was also soaked in the high salinity solution, so the salt started growing and walking all over it. To stop that, we have to spray a fixative on it to allow the salt to be dormant, but right now it's active. So the salt is all into the ceramics. So this is like the first piece that was made when we first had the whole COVID thing, and the Biennale was asking artists in Dakar to submit work and to talk about their experience. And I made this piece in response to what we're eating and how we're stacking up on food and how much sodium was in the food. This right here is all live salt growing on the actual ceramic, and that's a fossilized fish bone. So, and this is, you see the color of the salt, how it's taking over the metal. This is the power of salt. So this piece, when it was made, I wanted to go to Africa, and I reached out to a very dear friend and collector of mine, CCH founder. I convinced her to buy the piece to raise the money, and of course she got a piece, and also donated a piece to the Museum of the Black Civilization in Dakar, Senegal. And that for me was the most amazing moment, because I get to show in the first and the largest museum on the continent of Africa in Dakar, Senegal, the Museum of Black Civilization in 2018. Representing the English-speaking diaspora, which was really wonderful. So she had her first outing. She hadn't had another outing since. Have you? No, you will, right? Okay, hope so. Let's see what curator is going to invite you. Burden man, burden. So I've always felt like we as a people have always been burdened with so much, and this is one of the pieces that I'm using ceramics to tell a story. So the burden man doesn't mean the physical male, but it's mean man as in human. As you can see, there's a woman hanging on the piece right here, and there's another figure that supposedly to be a man on it. And you can use it as a vessel. The opening is a mouth, and it's just the constant hollering of just, we're here, and we are present, and we are valuable. We're a part of every and any society. So this is one of 10, and I have the last one. So these bags of salt came out of Mexico, but it's the whole idea of how people work in the labor and the production of the salt and how it got sold into other markets. In this case, I did not erase the original place from which the salt came, but I also appropriate images that reflect some of the same thing that was happening to people in the continent who works in the salt mine. So these are part of the installation on salt. Each piece is an original piece because each piece is hand printed. So each bag of salt is an original piece. Salt, by your salt.